Hello everyone, with the Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Thursday evening, January 4, 2024. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future to in your specific area. Alright, so let us take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can still see that the entire Atlantic basin is being dominated by ridges of high pressure that are responsible for sending all of that easterly trade wind across the main development region into the Caribbean. We can also see that we still have multiple cold fronts plaguing the northern section of North Atlantic, one right here situated to the north of the central and eastern Caribbean, and one right here off the east coast of the United States affecting portions of southern Florida and sections of the northern Bahamas. If we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can see the low level flow, though it is slow, coming in from the east across the main development region into the Caribbean, blowing all of those low level clouds. And we can also see the clouds associated with that cold front, stretching all the way from northern section of North Atlantic all the way down to the north of the central and eastern Caribbean, as well as the clouds associated with that other cold front right there off the east coast of the United States, going all the way into portions of the northern Bahamas and sections of southern Florida with some amount of overcast skies and rainfall. We'll be talking more about the Caribbean weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Thursday, January 4. It was stated that we would have received some afternoon rainfall across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes in Jamaica. And on the eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey, so Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew. Central parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, so St. Anne, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine. Western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, so St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney. And what ended up happening? A post was made on our Twitter page as early as this morning. And keep in mind that these posts aren't only made on our Twitter page, but our Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok page. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there, as there are posts that are made on those platforms that are not made here on our YouTube page. So you can see that at 10:06 a.m., a post was made highlighting the visible satellite images, showing that we did indeed have some clouds coming into sections of eastern Jamaica during the morning, bring some amount of isolated showers, and even by afternoon, the Cuban Doppler radar images were posted, highlighting that we still had some amount of greens that represent light to moderate rainfall coming into sections of St. Thomas and Portland. And we even had seen some of this starting to spread across sections of some central and western parishes, especially sections of Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth. And then by 3:21 p.m., another post was made highlighting the visible satellite images showing clouds bringing overcast skies and isolated showers to sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes in Jamaica. So this has been the most rainfall that we've gotten thus far this month. Even although it didn't fall in some places, it did fall in some, and we even have confirmation from Audrey Jackson stating lots of rain now in the hills of St. James. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before the sun went down, we can see that even up to the point where the sun went down, we still had some leftover clouds across sections of some western parishes in Jamaica, still bringing some rainfall to sections of those spots. And if we even take a look at the infrared satellite images, we can see that we indeed had some amount of convection taking place across western Jamaica. Those high cold cloud tops that indicate some cumulonimbus clouds represented by those blues and greens. Not to mention those sparkling white dots that we know indicate lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes. So we definitely had some of that across sections of northern St. Elizabeth. And we still have some more grays representing cloud cover still taking shape across sections of central and western Jamaica. And if we take a look at the latest Cuban Doppler radar images, we can still see that we have some amount of rainfall taking place across sections of Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, even section of St. James getting in on the action right now, and the time is 7:07 p.m. And this is the latest image from the Cuban radar site, and we definitely have some amount of rainfall taking place across some areas. Alright, so let's just take a look at the temperatures right now. We can say we have 27 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 25 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and by about 3 a.m. on Friday, the temperature should dip down to about 23 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston. As it relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is showing 18 on Friday. That's about 1 p.m. on Friday when we calculate it. And we can see Jamaica right here embedded in some yellows and some oranges that represent 1 to even 3 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures. I know the normal temperatures for the month of January across Jamaica is about 86.5 degrees Fahrenheit. We take a look at the thermometer. 86.5 degrees Fahrenheit is about the same as 30 degrees Celsius. So, with the forecast for up to 3 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures for tomorrow, we should be getting anywhere from 30 to 33 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on Friday. As it relates to the dry air map, we can see the dry air represented by the key at the bottom, represented by some yellows, oranges, and reds, not to mention whites within those reds. And we can still see a lot of dry air plaguing the entire Caribbean basin. Some moist air actually surrounding the Jamaica area right now, as you can see by those blues, which explains the rainfall that we got today. So the air is not as dry today as it was yesterday, but that could definitely change tomorrow as some more dry air is going to be intruding. Taking a look at the Saharan dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Friday, we do see that majority of Jamaica and the Caribbean should be in the clear, as all the dust associated with the Sahara Desert, represented by these brown colors, should be across sections of the southern main development region and Africa. As relates to the wave forecast, we can see that surrounding Jamaica tomorrow we have more in the way of blues, especially some darker shades of blues across the eastern portion of the island, some lighter shades of blues across the northern and western portion of the island. And we know the blues are representative of zero point 0.5 of a meter to 1 meter wave heights, as we can see by the key on the bottom right. And we see that on both the Euro and the GFS malls. And we know that's because the winds are not going to be that strong, coming in from the east, averaging anywhere from, let's say, 10 to 15 knots at most. And then we do see that we're going to be having those darker shades of blues across sections of some inland areas of some central and western parishes. So we know what usually happens. We have all of that air piling up. Then we have that afternoon rainfall. Who knows? We might get some more afternoon convection again, just like what we got today. And whatever rainfall that blows off the Caribbean Sea coming into eastern Jamaica, maybe section of eastern St. Thomas and Portland, we might just have a repeat of that. And with the upper level winds coming in from the southwest for tomorrow, it's definitely going to be favoring more of that afternoon convection across sections of some northern parishes. So we saw the upper level winds blowing those high cold cloud tops off towards the east, just like what we saw here with those greens and yellows and greens and blues, sorry. We saw that most of that was being blown off towards the north. Sometimes when this usually happens, we have more in the way of that rainfall across northern Jamaica. So you might just get a repeat of what happened today across inland areas of some central and western parishes, with more of the bias across northern Jamaica. And if we actually take a look at the rainfall forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS and this map from the Euro is showing the blues that represent rainfall. Where do we see it? Where do we see the consensus? Across eastern Jamaica, section of St. Thomas and Portland. And that is valid for about 9 a.m. on Friday. And skipping ahead to about 3 p.m. now, we start to see more of those blues spreading across eastern, central, and western Jamaica. It's a bit more robust on the Euro model. We know the Euro model can get GFS making more sense, eastern, central, and especially northwestern portion of the island. That's going to be picking up on that isolated afternoon rainfall. And as it relates to the accumulated rainfall that's expected, we do see that both the Euro and the GFS malls are showing that for the next 24 hours, we're definitely going to be getting in on some amount of rainfall across Jamaica. The Euro showing up to 0.29 of an inch of rainfall across the southwest. GFS showing up to 0.26 of an inch of rainfall. Either way, we're in the forecast for some amount of rainfall in some spots across the island, eastern, central, and western Jamaica. We're indeed glad for the change in weather pattern. We've been seeing more of that rainfall confined to northern Jamaica with that relief rainfall, all courtesy of the winds from the northeast trade winds brought about through that windward passage between Cuba and Haiti. So it's about time that Portland, St. Mary actually get a break from that rainfall, and some of this rainfall start to affect other areas with that easterly flow. We know that wind direction and wind speed has a lot to do with the weather pattern across Jamaica. And we're indeed grateful for the change. But we know that the northeast trade winds are going to be back before January ends. Either way, we're indeed grateful for the rainfall that we're going to be getting tomorrow. We're in the month of January. We usually receive up to 97 millimeters of rainfall across the island of Jamaica, especially on the north coast. And we're actually in the dry season, so we're going to be hearing more fire trucks going all up and down the area trying to put out bushfires. Some of these bushfires can even lead to property damage, so we have to be mindful during the dry season. And if you have water in your pipes, please ensure that you conserve water now, because we know the National Water Commission can get. All right, so that is it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have the clouds associated with that cold front affecting portions of the northern Bahamas, sections of Florida. Some clouds still left over across Jamaica bring some isolated showers, sections of Cuba as well, sections of Central America, and even sections of the Leeward Islands. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the Leeward Islands, we can actually see that we do indeed don't have much in the way of rainfall to report at all, and that was what it was like across the entire area throughout the day. However, as it relates to the Barbados radar showing the Windward Islands, we do see some isolated light showers as represented by those blues passing to the north of Barbados, pushing to the west maybe to affect sections of maybe St. Lucia tonight. We do see some greens right here getting ready to affect the Grenadine Islands with some amount of rainfall, and it's training too, so it could bring some amount of isolated flash flooding in some areas. And we don't see much taking place across Grenada, but maybe some sprinkle here or there could take place across Grenada, just like what Tobago is receiving as we speak. Don't see much taking place across Trinidad at all at this time, but just some isolated showers could make it into the eastern portion of the island later on tonight. As it relates to the wider view of Doppler radar images, we don't see much rainfall taking place across the entire basin at all, but we know how quickly that can change. As it relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we do see that this map from the GFS is showing 18 on Friday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Friday. And we do see the blues that represent below average temperatures, not to mention the greens that represent way below average temperatures, as represented by the key on the right across section of the United States, especially the East Coast, while the yellows and oranges that represent above normal temperatures are plaguing majority of the Caribbean, Northern South America, Central America, sections of Mexico and the Gulf of Mexico, especially with all of those reds. As it relates to the Saharan dust forecast, we do see that majority of the Western Hemisphere should be in the clear for 2 p.m. on Friday, as majority of the dust associated with the Sahara Desert should be across sections of the main development region and Africa. As it relates to the wave forecast, we do see more so in the way of blues all across the Caribbean that represent anywhere from 0.5 meter wave heights all the way up to close to 1.5 meter wave height. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus with this. And that's because the winds are going to be coming in from the east for the most part, averaging anywhere from 10 to 15, close to even 20 knots. And we know that wherever we see the yellows, that's representative of some 25 knot winds or more, while the greens will represent anywhere from 15 to 20 knots. Taking a look at the rainfall forecast, we don't see much in the way of rainfall wherever we see the greens and yellows. We know that's more so some isolated rainfall, nothing too heavy, nothing red like what we see that the cold front is leaving across the northern waters of the Atlantic right there to the north of the eastern Caribbean. And we see that most of this rainfall is going to be confined to sections of the Windward Islands. So maybe sections of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines area, Trinidad and Tobago. We can also see some rainfall that could affect sections of the coastal areas of Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana. Not much in the way of rainfall for Venezuela or the ABC Islands, but definitely sections of Western Colombia, Panama, sections of Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras. Just some isolated shores, nothing too drastic. And we also see that rainfall across sections of Jamaica, eastern Cuba, sections of the Bahamas as well. And we know that when both maps from the U and the GFS are in consensus like this, the chances of actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.